It's Mohim for Boxing Domination, and today I'm joined by Rolando Moreno, promoter of Mundo Boxing Promotions. How are you doing, sir? Joining me from Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh my God, I'm great, man. I'm great. Honestly, I'm blessed. I'm very happy for our win. It was incredible. It's incredible.
Fantastic event. Alexis Angulo finally came back to a ring after almost 2 year layoff. Went full distance, 10 rounds. Tell me, give me the exclusive. Talk to me.
I'm gonna give you the exclusive. I'm gonna give you the exclusive. No one else in the world knows this. Okay. So he Alexis asked me, I need boxing shoes. So I get him some boxing shoes. Okay. The thing that happened was it's an outdoor event. It was the rodeo. He was, he was hitting the mitts, getting ready, warming up on the concrete, on hard concrete. Okay. So the soles of his shoes broke in the middle of the fight. Okay. So he couldn't step and really hit Oscar like he wanted to hit Oscar, you know? So it was like, and it was something that you had to be there to see it. And it was something, it caused me a lot of anxiety because obviously I'm there ringside and I'm seeing him and I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't have soles to his shoes. Okay. And it was incredible. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was like, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe he still won like that. It
That
was
is
incredible.
unbelievable. So you're telling me
Right.
the soles of his shoes just went off mid-fight?
Right, right. We had to rip out the soles of both his shoes because they had torn off. Right. So they were like torn off. So imagine a power puncher that can't step and he was slipping the whole time, the whole time. And anyone, and now that that I told people, if anyone goes and looks at the broadcast again, they're gonna see that that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, because it was in a moment where I was thinking, because I was telling everyone, listen, Alexis Angulo is going to go out there round six to round eight. I'm predicting round number seven knockout. And when I saw him go the distance, I was like, okay, that surprised me a little bit. It's either something's off or his opponent's just super, super tough.
No, his opponent was very tough, but I will tell you, and have a lot of respect for Oscar, but Oscar didn't want to come out in the fifth round. He was done. He was done. It's Alexis puts a lot of pressure on people, in spite of you know what I just finished confessing to you guys that it was it literally limited our boxer a lot. Imagine not being able to step into a punch, worried about slipping. It's an outside venue, the humidity here in Miami, it's a problem. So it's incredible, what Alexis was able to do, and that's just to the quality of fighter he is.
And of course, it was a very good card. We also had Lorenzo Medina score a knockout. We had Gustavo Trujillo go distance with
Trujillo, the Cuban assassin. Yes,
indeed with Terrell Jamal Woods. One of the best journeyman heavyweights in boxing
yes.
right now.
Terrell is a tough opponent. Okay, Terrell comes to win. He is game. And that was a very, very competitive fight. But Terrell, hats off to Terrell. And the fight of the night was Daniel Bailey.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were able to see that. That was, you know, he fought, Ortiz, uh whose game that was my favorite fight. That fight was my favorite fight. That's the fight that I thought was the most competitive.
And one thing with British fighters, I must say, struggle with usually is Mexican fighters, and it's the fact that Daniel Bailey, an American, he just literally, it was round five, wasn't it? Or round
Yes,
five.
yes, sir. Yes, it was round five.
Wow.
It was round five. Um, it's so cool. The dynamic with the Mexican fighters, and we have some Mexican fighters that we're gonna start showcasing soon. You know, um, but it's incredible. But you know what? I equate it to the Irish fighters are the same as the Mexican fighters. You know, I find the same dynamic. Like just toughness, moving forward. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible.
And I saw one of the videos online surfacing the two super featherweights. I've got the name. Correct me if I'm wrong with the pronunciation. Manuel Correa and of course Daniel Bailey. Is that a fight that we could be seeing in some time future?
Yes. So watch. So let me tell you, this has been brewing. This competition has been brewing. This is for supremacy in Miami. Okay. We have an African American fighter fighting a Cuban American fighter. Okay. It's basically to see who's who, who's what. You have a classic. Daniel Bailey is a very good defensive and a great boxer. Manuel Correa is a hard hitting guy, so it's literally, I think it's an incredible clash, okay, of everything having to do, with boxing.
Obviously, I'm going to put you on the spot, but how do you see that fight going? I know I'm putting you in the spot, but how do you see that fight going stylistically?
Um, okay, so stylistically, if it goes past 2 rounds, right, then Daniel Bailey wins. If it's within the first 2 rounds, I give it to Manny Correa. I'm telling you, I give it to him. I'm like the pressure he can put on, but if Daniel Bailey could weather the storm, you know, I think he could do it because he is a better boxer per se. He is a better boxer per se.
And you
Absolutely.
got another fighter as well from Cuba. And I must say, Cuban fighters have always been up there for me. Back in the day, in the amateurs, of course, Felix Savon, one of the best
Yes,
amateur
the best.
fighters of all time. You have Odlanier Solis, who hasn't done much as a pro, but he was a fantastic amateur. Guillermo Rigondeaux. Now you have your own stable of fighters. Now, I want to mention this because, of course, there's a fighter from Golden Boy, Darius Forgam, who's light heavyweight, who's, I believe, 9-0 with 9 KOs. You've got
Yes,
5-0
sir.
with 5 KOs, Brian Leon, who's also scored a knockout. What's the development plan with Brian Leon? And do you think maybe that fight with Darius Forgam could happen? I'm just saying it because they're both very early on in their careers.
Yeah, it's early on in the career. I'm not sure if that fight could happen per se right now. That's something that would have to be discussed with their promoters and the management. But I think Brian's for real. He's for real. And it's something that I think will happen. Not sure immediately, but he's for real, and he's under a good management and promotion team. He really is. Absolutely.
And I've never really asked you because this is our second conversation by Zoom, our third
Yes, sir.
conversation, or fourth over the phone call. And
Right.
so far, so good. I hope from your end as well. Now, I need to ask you, what got you into the whole promotion side of boxing and what really got you into boxing? Tell me about you.
Okay. So um, as a young age, from a young age, from when I was a young child, I would get in a lot of trouble, as a young man, and So my grandmother who raised me, she basically wanted me to just get me off the streets. So she actually sent me to Tropical Park, where I train now, and it was 1987, and I started boxing, and one of the things that I fell most in love with was it was 1987, and I'm hitting the heavy bag, and some guy touches me on the shoulder and says to me, "You're not throwing the jab well." You know who that person was? Alexis Arguello, okay, who just happened to be, right, my absolute favorite fighter of all time. Okay, so that's pretty much how it started, and I've been boxing all my life, and it was something that I decided I got sick of real estate, and I'm like, you know what? I want to before I get too old, I want to do my love, and it's getting into boxing.
Wow, that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Yes,
Now, of course, successful event. There's of course many events yet to come. But in terms of
yes,
Alexis
sir.
Angulo's,
Yes,
in terms of the plans with Alexis Angulo, of course, I want to ask you because right now the division is open. Everyone's chasing one man, Canelo Alvarez. Munguia is chasing
yes, sir.
Canelo. Edgar Berlanga is chasing Canelo. But from what we know and what's been confirmed is Edgar Berlanga will not fight Canelo next. It will most likely be Jaime Munguia, leaving Berlanga open. Of course, there's other fighters open as well, like
Mhm.
David Morrell. Now, do you plan of being, Alexis's manager? Do you plan of him fighting for a title straight after, or do you still want him to maybe have a few more rounds in?
We're ready to go. We're ready to go. We'll fight David Morrell. We'll fight Berlanga for sure. We'll fight Canelo. We'll fight whomever. Okay. I am not I'm not delusional. Okay. Alexis is getting up there in age. Okay, but what I do know is that no one at that weight class can handle his heavy hands. They can't handle it. They can't handle it. It just so we're ready and we're willing to take on absolutely any opponent. Unlike Canelo, okay, who picks and chooses, we're ready to go for anyone. Okay, for David Morrell's people were entertaining, but the thing is that they're entertaining because you know what happens? All right. They know something could go really bad with Alexis. Okay. Something could go really bad really quick. And I think that's what the people want to see. So I recognize the obstacles we have. Okay. Alexis is not an easy opponent for anyone. For anyone. You know, Oscar, and I respect Oscar. The guy we fought to win the title. He went there specifically not to get knocked out. Specifically not to get knocked out. You know, and you know a lot about boxing. Okay, you know that's not how you win fights. Okay, okay. So that's unfortunate. So Berlanga, Morel, none of these people, they cannot have that tactic because you know they're gonna have to they're gonna have to fight. And Alexis is an incredible, punishing counterpuncher. So
You know what? That I
that's
can
where we're
agree
at.
with because when a fighter doesn't come to win, it's always the survival instinct, isn't it? I just
Right,
need to
of course.
survive. It's I see Oscar more as a gatekeeper. You have a lot of them in boxing. You have a lot of them in British boxing as well. Someone who comes in to pretty much save the show. Because I can imagine matchmaking must be an absolute nightmare. Because you don't want someone just coming in just to get knocked over because people are paying tickets.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, and that's a dynamic where people don't know, people that are not in boxing don't understand uh matchmaking and really what it coincides. You have to deal with the Florida Boxing Commission. You have to deal with it's not just a pushover. It has to be someone who brings it, you know, and understand that you know, Oscar's a southpaw, a Mexican, you know, a hard fighter, a good defensive fighter, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, it was a competitive fight. It was a competitive fight, but I understand that Alexis Angulo is at that weight class between 168 and 175 at an elite level, you know, and that's where, you know, I see where we're gonna land with that. I do.
And the last question on him is, of course, I believe he's just flown off to Colombia. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Brilliant. Obviously, I just want
Yeah,
to
so
ask that.
I gave him a break. I gave him a break. You know, we're coming back. We're doing the TCL tournament, which I spoke to you about. You know, it's a very cool tournament, but I think he needed a little TLC. You know, so
Yeah.
I gave him a break.
Now, obviously, this is something that I speak to a lot of fighters, managers about over the course of boxing. You know, I'll just tell you exactly how long I've been doing this, even though you didn't ask me. I've been doing this since I was 14 years old. I'm 22 now, 8
Congrats,
years. Brilliant. Now,
congrats.
fighters who are often very avoided, right? They tend to go down with two routes that I've seen in Britain, especially. For example, when Anthony Yard fought Sergey Kovalev, he went through the WBO route, became a mandatory. A lot of fighters become mandatory through WBA because through WBA it seems to be very easy to climb up the rankings. There's a lot of fighters on the
Right.
WBA rankings that haven't
Yes, sir.
even had a fight on BoxRec. So it's a crazy one. In terms of avoided fighters, especially with Cuban fighters, I've seen them fight for IBO title as an alternative route in order to get in the top 10 rankings. One of the guys in super middleweight being, again, I can't pronounce his name, Osleys Iglesias, I believe his name is, 908
Uh-huh.
KOs, Cuban. He's the IBO champion, ranked 11 in the world. Now, is that something you guys intend to do as well? Maybe go down the mandatory route if you guys can't get a direct shot.
Yeah, so what happens, what I do like about the IBO, it is a prestigious, title. Um, but aside from the prestigious title, it allows you to have to pick one of your judges. You understand? And that's important, you know, especially when you're maybe not hosting your own event, you know, that you happen to go into someone else's event, you know, you have a say there, you know, and I think that's where the IBO, and we do have a very good relationship with the IBO. I have another fighter, you know, that I'll share with you after that. We have a title fight coming up April 5th in Houston, you know, in the zone, you know, and I want to do an interview with you also with him, but we have a very good relationship, and that's definitely a route that we want to take with the IBO.
That's
Absolutely.
brilliant because I've always respected the IBO. I think IBO is still a massive belt that fighters fight for. You know, we've seen the likes of Vladimir Klitschko hold it for more than 5, 6, 10 years, and Jesse
Absolutely.
Bank Jr. So many fighters have held it. Now I'm gonna keep this on the short end, of course, of the interview because
Yes,
I do
sir.
want to catch up with you again in about a week or two time. Now,
Absolutely.
in terms of shows in Miami, of course, you've done at the Tropical Park. Is that the venue you set to do going forward this year, or do you plan of maybe extending in other venues
Yeah,
around Miami?
unfortunately for those people that are not familiar with the Miami climate, it's an outdoor venue. You can't do outdoor venues past April. until maybe November in Miami. It just doesn't work. It's just too hot. It's too humid. So we're finding some alternative venues, and but the good thing is, um what we have coalesced, incredible Miami fighters, and everyone saw the success of this event, and everyone wants to participate. It's incredible how many people have called me like, I want in, I want in, I want in, and including you. And we're gonna have to get you on a plane and come down here, okay? Because I definitely want to see you at the next event. Absolutely.
Now, I'm absolutely humbled. Now, I want to ask you one thing, and this is something I've wanted to do with a lot of managers, because of course I've I've been based in the UK, but recently I started to expand my company across Europe, and now they're trying to do in America. Now, if I was to do a thing when I'm going to go back on Lorenzo Medina because he's so young. Can I ask him, are you are you managing him or is it someone else? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I'm not managing him. I could put you in contact with his manager. But Lorenzo is an extremely incredible talent. He's managed by an incredible group. He has an incredible promotion group. He gave us the honor of allowing us to showcase him on our event. Because he's always wanted to fight here in his hometown of Miami, and we were afforded him the opportunity to do that. But he's an incredible thing, and I can put you in contact with them because he's incredible. He's incredible.
I want to ask you one more thing as well. Is over the years of you being in boxing, I've seen a few stuff which were absolutely crazy, which I can't say on camera. But what's the craziest thing you've experienced since getting into boxing? It could be anything. Or who's the hardest
The
hitter as
crazy.
well?
Okay, who's the hardest hitter? Okay, the craziest experience I've had is arguing with Glenn Johnson. Okay,
Okay.
okay, arguing. Okay, imagine arguing with Glenn Johnson. The guy who famously knocked out Roy Jones Jr. Okay, arguing with Glenn Johnson over a fighter. That to me has been the craziest thing. Okay, so
What actually led to it?
um, and the uh
What actually
what
led to
actually
it?
because the fighter he was having he actually was we were trying to get one of his fighters to fight another fighter, but unfortunately the fighter that got picked by the matchmaker tested positive for hepatitis. So we had to say no, and telling Glenn Johnson no about something. He goes, but I've been preparing for this fighter for so long, and I'm like, Glenn, you know, what am I gonna do? And telling Glenn Johnson that, I didn't like my chances.
Well, one thing I do know about Glenn Johnson is even like he's one of them fighters, even towards the very end of his career, because he didn't have to have so many losses on his record. All of his losses really start to come in towards the very later end of his career. But man, he was tough. He
He's
was
tough.
tough.
He's tough. He's tough. No, and I love him to death. He's a tough man, and it's hard to look at him and tell him no about anything.
His toughness reminds me of a Danish fighter. I don't know if you know him or remember him, Berlanga.
Ah, yes, yes,
He was incredible. The
yes.
only man he was stopped by was David Hay.
Right. Good. Yeah. Tough, tough, tough man. Tough man. Absolutely.
But who would you say was the
Absolutely.
hardest hitter though?
The hardest hitter that we've ever had,
Yeah, or
Tyrone
like
Spawn.
under your management.
Tyrone Spawn. Tyrone Spawn.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Like that he is no joke. Tyrone Spawn is the hardest hitter I've ever seen in person. Okay, he's no joke. No joke. You know, he's
Because he
no
was meant
joke.
to fight Usyk.
He was
He was
he was he
supposed
was
to.
gonna fight Usyk. He was gonna fight Usyk. I'm telling you, Tyrone Spong. Listen, I put him against any heavyweight. Okay, any day he has a chance. I'm telling you, he has a chance because he is a man's man, and he hits harder than I've ever seen anyone personally.
That's incredible because I've seen kickboxers transition to boxing, and
No,
one thing is his knockouts were insane, especially that fight I saw in kickboxing where he went down, then he ended up winning like 30 seconds later.
he has he has two knockouts with jabs. Who knocks out people with jabs? Okay, that just tells you. Okay, who knocks out people with jabs? Okay, so that's where that's my 2 cents. As the hardest hitter I've ever personally seen has been Tyrone. Absolutely, hands down.
That is absolutely insane. You know what? This actually felt like one of the best interviews I've had in the last 12 months. Maybe 12 to 18 months, probably my all-time channel. This was probably
Thank
the
you, my
most
friend.
enjoyable interviews I've had. Before we
Thank
let
you,
you
my friend.
go, we want to ask
Yes, sir.
you the next show, what are we expecting? Is it going to be more fiery than this one?
Yeah, we're going to we're gonna just regroup right now, and we're gonna find a venue, just because we want to do it in Miami. There's considerations with the weather and everything, so we just want to make sure we do these things right. And with every event that you host, there's always a learning experience, and we're just going to go back to the drawing board and make sure that we had an incredible turnout. It was an incredible experience, like none in Miami. And we want to make sure that this one exceeds the last show.
And that's an interview wrapped with Rolando Moreno of Mundo Boxing Promotion. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, my brother.